The Torah, or what is called the Bible, is a divine work, written by God, dictated by God. And therefore, it has multiple levels, multiple layers of meaning. And we can go on forever finding deeper and richer insights and meaning into the familiar stories and teachings and commandments of the Torah. A really good example is the story of Adam and Eve. Everybody knows the story, but here's the rest of the story. The way it's read, in its simple literal meaning, God created Adam and Eve. He put them in the Garden of Eden. He said to them, or actually he said to Adam, "Of all the trees you may eat the fruits, but the tree of knowledge of good and evil you may not eat from it. For the day you eat from it, you will die." According to the historians, this was 9 hours after they were created in the Garden of Eden. 9 hours after they were created, they were told not to eat from the tree of knowledge. Well, an hour later, the 10th hour, they ate from the tree of knowledge. Now God comes to Adam and says, "You ate from the tree I told you not to eat from?" Adam says, "She gave it to me and I ate it." Like it's her fault. God says to Eve, to Chava, "What did you do?" She says, "The snake." The snake made me do it, convinced me, tricked me. So God says, "Okay, because you did this, by the sweat of your brow will you make bread, and you will give birth to children in pain. And the snake will be your enemy. He will bite you and you will beat him." Anyway. Okay, that's the story. It has many moral lessons, but the facts of the story don't really come together very well. Just quickly, a list of questions. Number 1, God spoke to Adam and said, "Don't eat from that tree." An hour later, he ate from the tree. Is there something wrong with God? Is it what? He's not impressive? Not convincing? You can dismiss him an hour later? It's not like Adam wasn't sure that God meant him. You imagine Adam saying, "Are you talking to me?" Yeah, I'm talking to you. There's nobody else around. So God speaks to Adam up close and personal and says, "Don't do this." And an hour later, he can do it? God is not very effective. Something's wrong. When God spoke to the Jewish people at Mount Sinai, everybody fainted. Adam just dismisses it. And then, question number 2, what's wrong with Adam? He was created by God. He had no birth traumas. His mother didn't traumatize him in the toilet training. He didn't have bad friends. He didn't grow up in a bad neighborhood. And he didn't have an evil inclination that tempts you to sin. He didn't have that. What's wrong with him? Then you find out that the tree was actually a fig tree. Come on, how tempting is that? Irresistible? Next question. God says to Adam, "The day you eat from that tree, you will die." Was death a threat? Did it mean anything to Adam at all? He was 9 hours old. Okay, he had the maturity of a 20-year-old. But he was 9 hours into life. Did he already have a survival instinct? Did he even know what death meant? Nothing ever died. That's strange. Next question. What kind of a mixed message is it to say, don't eat from the tree, for the day you eat from it, you'll die? There's a day when I will eat from it? See, it doesn't say if you eat from it. It says the day you eat from it, you'll die. Confusing. Next question. God asks him, you ate from the tree I told you not to eat from. He blames her. This is too much corruption too quickly. He was already so corrupt that he can't even be honest. That doesn't say much for the human race. And then she blames a snake? This is weird. Then God says, because you did this, here are the consequences. Pain in childbirth by the sweat of your brow. Whoa, that was not the deal. The deal was the day you eat from it, you'll die. Now God is saying, oh, no, not just die. First you'll suffer, then you'll die. Like that bumper sticker. Life stinks, then you die. That was not the deal. And you can't, it's not right to add more punishment after the fact. The ultimate question is this. It's a discouraging story. It's a depressing story. Why would the Torah begin? I mean, okay, it happened. Doesn't mean you have to tell me the story right at the beginning of the Torah. Because if a person who had no traumas, no bad friends, no bad influences, no evil inclination, is given one commandment and he doesn't last an hour, what chance do we have? It's not a good story to start the Torah with. So that's on one level. Let's try another level. Back up a little bit. Where did Adam and Eve come from? They were created by God. God fashioned their body out of earth and then breathed a soul into them. Where was that soul? So the story begins. There were two souls in heaven, a male and a female. And God said to them, I'm going to send you down to the lowest of all possible worlds, invest you into a physical body made out of earth, and you're going to elevate that world, the lowest of all worlds, and make it holier and more godly than heaven. Yes, they accepted the mission. Now they open their eyes. They're in the Garden of Eden. God says to Adam, of all the trees you may eat, but not this one. Now, just picture them sitting there, puzzled. We're supposed to fix this world, elevate it. All the trees are kosher, they don't need elevating. There's one tree that is not so kosher, something's wrong with it. It needs fixing, but we're not allowed to eat it. So what are we doing here? What happened to our mission? Where's our job? They were puzzled. And then Adam said, it's quite confusing. Did God said not to eat it, or did he say someday you will eat it? Because he said the day you eat from it, you'll die. Eve said, it's not a mixed message and it's not confusing. God is asking us to choose. Make a choice. Don't eat from it and live, or Eat from it and die. It's your choice. So Adam said, well, that's a pretty simple choice to make. Let's not eat from it and live. Eve said, God wants us to eat from it. He's hoping we eat from it. And Adam said, how do you know that? She said, because our job is in the lowest world, and this is not the lowest world. There's a world in which people die. A world of mortality. That's the lowest world, and that's where our job is. He wants us to eat from the tree and go into the world of mortality. Adam said, God put us here. Can't be a mistake. So if he puts us here, he must want us here. And Eve said, no, it's not the way it works. God takes you to where your job is, but you have to volunteer to cross that border. God will take you to the threshold, but whether you enter that door or not is up to you. He wants us to volunteer. Adam said, makes a lot of sense. And they ate from the tree. Now God comes to Adam and says, you ate from the tree I told you not to eat from. Naturally, we assume that God is shouting. He's angry and he's about to smite somebody. That may be one interpretation, but not necessarily. God is not angry. God is marveling. How did you know? I told you not to eat from it, but you understood that I was hoping you would? How did you know that? Being a new, fresh, pure, innocent soul, Adam said, I didn't know. She knew. So God says to Eve, how did you know? She said, what the snake told me sounded like that's where our job would be. The snake said, when you eat from that tree, you will be like God. You will know good and evil. Well, good and evil, that needs fixing. So God said, that's great. That's exactly what I meant by it's not good for man to be alone, because Adam would not have eaten from the tree. So then God says, let me tell you more about this world that you're going down to. It's a mortal world. It also has pain, struggle, disappointment. It's an uphill battle. It's the lowest world. Are you sure you want to try to fix it? And they said, yes. If that's what you need done, that's what we will do. That's the story of Adam and Eve. Quite different from the conventional understanding. God was not angry. They were not punished because they never committed a sin. Now we refer to that as the sin of the tree of knowledge. But the word that we use in Hebrew is not really translated as sin. There are other words for sin. The word chet, which is how we describe the action in the Garden of Eden, the word chet doesn't mean sin. The word chet means a step down, demoted. They took a giant step down, but there was no violation. There was no sin. There was nothing malicious. There was nothing lustful. It was innocent and it was correct. But it was a step down. In fact, when God said, don't eat from that tree, the day you eat from it, you'll die, He wanted them to eat from the tree. Then why did He say don't? Well, to give them a choice. But God can't say a falsehood. When God said, don't eat from the tree, it meant, I don't want you to eat from the tree. But He did want them to eat from the tree. Here's what you really, really need to know. God said, don't eat from the tree, because you're going to die. Your children are going to be imperfect. They won't know me. I don't want this to happen. But I'm hoping you do it, because otherwise the vast eternal plan will never be fulfilled. So God was saying, I don't want you to do this, but I need you to do this. Like a king sending his army off to war. If he's a good king, he doesn't want to. He hates it. But has to happen. So when God said, don't eat from the tree, he meant, I really don't want this to happen, but I hope you eat from the tree because it has to happen. What does this tell us about God? He's not sitting up there in heaven, unaffected, invulnerable, untouched by anything that happens to us, and he just watches us to see when he should smite us. That's not God. God made an investment in creation. Like a man getting married. He has to make some sacrifices. He has to give up a lot of stuff. But how else is he going to have a soulmate? So God sacrifices, does things against his own will, goes out of his comfort zone in order to have this creation, which is a relationship. And that's why everything we do is so important to him. So it touches him, it affects him, gives him pleasure, gives him pain. You say, how can God have pleasure? How can God have pain? Yeah, not the way we do. Our pleasure is feeble and our pain is pathetic. His pain is infinite and his pleasure is eternal. Of course, he's more than us, not less, but it's worth it. If we do this, it will be worth it. And that was Eve's wisdom. She understood this. She heard God. Adam was so impressed with God that he didn't hear. He didn't hear it. How is it that she understood that they were not in the lowest world and they had to volunteer? And he missed it. He missed it because he was so overwhelmed by God's greatness that he didn't hear God's vulnerability. She heard it. And thanks to her, we are busy all these years elevating the world, fixing the world, fighting the injustices, setting things right to the best of our ability. And she was confident that her children will be able to do this. It's a huge compliment. So you see how a story can be viewed on a simple level, on a deeper level, on a profound level. Every story in the Torah is that way. If a story sounds too conventional, too plain, too ordinary, banal, you're not understanding it. We don't need God to come down to Mount Sinai to teach us things that even Dr. Phil could tell us. It's got to be more to a story in the Torah than conventional wisdom. So, dig deep. You'll find magnificence.
Shalom Aleichem. How are you? You know, I do a lot of talking, a lot of Zooming, many classes, many subjects. But that's all formal stuff. Hopefully good stuff, but formal. We also have a Wednesday night meeting that's more informal and kind of Hamish. If you want to join us for that kind of an event, interactive, time for questions and so on. If you want to join us for this side of conversation, click on the link below and join us every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock. Well, maybe not every Wednesday night, but we try to make it every Wednesday night at 9 o'clock, a more informal chat, which can be more enjoyable at times than the formal stuff. So check it out. Click on the link and join us. Try it. You'll like it.